This podcast was recorded and produced on Gadigal land.
We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and pay our respect to elders past and present.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
This is my final MAFS related interview.
They're talking about me. She's like, yep.
It was Australia's reaction. It's an
This is an exclusive.
Caused a lot of drama and it never got aired. It just went nuts.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Back to Reality. I'm Selina.
And I'm Tahnee.
And today we have, for the first time in Back to Reality history, our first ever non-reality TV star.
Ooh,
This is big for us.
Very excited because this is not what I think you guys would expect from us. If you've ever made it to Legal Talk, which I am immersed in, you would probably recognise his face, if not his iconic moustache.
Yes. But what I love about this particular guest is I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Like, I'm the kid that will sit next to Tahnee and copy her work. But the way this person explains things, it's so simple. It's like, if I can understand it, anyone can understand it. He breaks down celebrity cases like the Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, from like how to claim an insurance claim if a hurricane strikes.
Yeah, if you get caught with naughty stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
to MAFS.
Yeah.
So we thought, why not have the man, the myth, the legend, Jahan Kalantar. Welcome.
What an intro. Thank you for having me. Can you guys follow me everywhere? I feel
seriously.
pumped.
Hi,
Hot
girls.
girls.
Let's get into it. I think it'd be great to give the audience a little context about you and how you got started in the legal industry, because it's personally something I'm quite interested in. And I just love to hear how you got there and then the transition to this social TikTok Aussie lawyer space. Love it.
Yeah, look, so I've been a lawyer now for, I think, 13 years. I kind of came into it after a career in banking. I didn't really like it, and I went to law school post-banking, and I kind of fell sort of into this practice of criminal defense, family law, sort of clients that have faces and clients that have stories, and I really enjoyed it. And I've been doing that for pretty much nonstop for 13 years in different capacities, in different practice areas. But about 5 years ago, you guys probably remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, essentially we had a huge reshuffle here in Sydney.
Yep.
And every day at 11 a.m., the Premier would come out and be like, hey, these many people are dead. This many people are sick. Here's a new law. Bye. And would bail. And I was like, well, that didn't make any sense to me, and my practice is on hold. I've got staff. It was really stressful, and so I thought, I'm going to explain sort of how these rules work. And the first thing I did was I wrote a really detailed LinkedIn article, like no one read, no one cared at all. And then there was this thing called TikTok that was kind of popping off, and kids were doing dances on it. I thought, I might explain like how a LGA of concern works on TikTok. And like overnight I got 100 followers, which was crazy. Like, that was unimaginable to me. So I just kept at it, and slowly over time, I've come to understand that people really need access to the justice system. They feel a little bit overwhelmed, and I don't think that we as lawyers are particularly good at communicating what information people need. And so I've created sort of my TikTok channel, and across TikTok, Insta, YouTube, sort of LinkedIn and other channels, kind of explaining the law and making it a bit simpler, because it is complicated, but you don't need to know the complicated part. You just need to understand the dynamics. And so that's what I try to do in my channels.
Yeah, we were talking off mic before how I think when you think of like the legal system or like lawyers, you think it's like a faceless person. You're like, where would you actually go to look for someone, and like what like specializing field that they are? Like you literally, I'd go and look on TikTok. I'm like, lawyer for XYZ. Whereas before you just would be Googling, and the website, like there's no one's faces on there. You don't know who the person is representing you. And it's especially when it's quite like personal things or whatever the issue is, it's really hard to be like, am I going to trust this person to, am I going to go to jail? Or like what?
Yeah.
You've made this is a story I always tell. Like, we had a client that basically found us online, and he came to a conference, and this is before the TikTok thing blew up. And I always ask people, like, why did you choose our law firm? And he goes, well, it's really funny. I went to like 5 different law firm sites because it was a IP technical dispute about who owns the rights to something. And he goes, look, I went to 5 different websites, and 4 of them had like these lawyers like looking sad and angry, like, you know, like, and then there was your website, and you seemed like you were smiley and happy and normal, and like I just wanted to chat to that someone. And so I realized that from that experience that people there's going to be people who see a smiley, happy lawyer and think that person doesn't get it. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
They don't. They're not the right lawyer for me. But there'll be other people who, just like you've said, they want to speak to a human. They want to see a face. They want to get someone who understands things, watches reality TV, and is like a normal human being. And so I think it's really important to spread the message that lawyers come in all stripes, including weirdos like myself with funky mustaches.
Yeah. No, well, speaking of reality TV, do you watch reality TV? And what's your favorite show?
Yeah, we need
In
to
our
know.
household, a lot of reality TV is watched mostly by my beloved wife.
Your wife is beautiful, by the way. We love her. Love
Hannah's-
seeing her.
Big shout out to Hannah. She should really be here. She's the reality TV champion of the
Gal.
household. But a lot of it is watched over my shoulder. Love is Blind is currently what's
Oh,
playing.
Love is Blind.
And we just
Great format.
last night. She watched, I observed, but she watched the wedding episode, and it was who stayed
drama.
together and who didn't. So yes, a lot of reality TV show is watched in our house.
Yeah, love that.
So would you say that's your favorite show?
I must say, if you want to ask me what mine is, Too Hot to Handle.
Oh, did not expect that.
Me
And I'll
too.
tell you why, because you've got
Yeah.
these people who are so attractive they've never been told no, and then they have to like behave.
Controlled.
Yes.
It's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
a social experiment like unlike anything I've ever seen, because they're not used to hearing no, and that is a wonderful thing to see. It's like watching a child being told like no, you can't
Yeah.
go, and you
That's
can't
so
just
true.
draw on the walls. It's that, but for adults.
And it seems like, guys, it's not that hard. Seriously,
Yeah.
there's money on the
Self-control.
table.
Yeah.
Like,
for
come
200
on.
grand, just like be good for 10 days.
Seriously,
Yeah.
It's a lot of
A lot of
money.
money.
So what inspired you to make TikToks to begin with like all the subjects you talk
Yeah.
about?
Well, the thing is, I didn't know what people were or weren't interested in. And so one of the funny things is when you are sitting in sort of the shoes of a lawyer, you think that people are like really interested in things like how does the separation of powers doctrine work? And no one cares about that sort of stuff. What people like, the number one question I got asked was, can I drive bare feet with bare feet? It's a good question, right?
Can you?
You can.
drive,
Yes, you
so-
can. As long as you control the vehicle, you
Yeah.
can. And so what people were interested in was understanding things like, well, look, how does the Justin Baldoni thing go down? How does the Johnny Depp thing go down?
Yeah.
When they get up and say objection hearsay, what does that mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And so you start to get really good at understanding what people want to understand, and then you get curious as well. Like with the Johnny Depp thing.
Crazy. Going on that, the whole seeing things in a public forum, I think with that case specifically, I completely disagreed with, like, that was so done botched, and I just was like, this is not right. And I think it does sway public opinion.
Absolutely
And I
it
think
does.
it does impact, like, I'm an Amber Heard girly, like I will be there. Like, I think they're both done really bad things. I just think she was never going to win that battle. And I think she also lied about things, which made it worse for her. And I'm just like, ooh, like, it just was awful to watch the train wreck of that whole thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
look, from a lawyer's perspective, my mindset was more like, okay, you've got an article in the Washington Post about two Californian movie stars going through a divorce. Why are we having a court case in Virginia?
Yeah.
And why is it being publicized to the world? That's an interesting question legally.
Great,
How
yeah.
do you end up in Virginia?
Yeah.
And
What's
so-
the intention behind that?
Yeah.
How do you end up there? And so for me, I found that particularly fascinating. I found, I mean, whether you like him or you hate him, and I think we can both agree, both of them are highly problematic
For
people,
sure.
Yeah,
for
particularly in that
sure.
relationship
Yeah.
context. But Johnny Depp's lawyers did a fantastic job.
Totally.
They did a
Yeah.
fantastic
I'd want
job.
them defending me.
Yeah, 100%. And the caliber of the witnesses. You see,
Yeah.
you'll never see something like that because most of the time, the people with the resources to play at that level,
For
they
sure.
settle. They settle 99.9% of those cases. And so to be able to see that and see it play out in real time, it's like watching the OJ trial, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the only thing I can kind of
So
liken it
insane.
to. It's,
Yeah.
it's this circus that sways public opinion. And now we're seeing a lot more of it. Like you
Yeah.
see the ASAP Rocky case with,
Yeah.
the Megan Thee Stallion with
Yeah.
Tory Lanez. It's becoming more of spectacle justice. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that's it's going to be a thing that happens. We have to get better at understanding how we can make sure that
Control it.
we don't lose justice in the spectacle.
You had a look over the MAFS contract and
did.
you spoke about this on your TikTok.
Yeah, loved that video. We referenced it in one of our first episodes,
Yeah, we
actually.
did.
Yeah, because I was like, I've never seen a lawyer speak about the contract
Same.
ever before. And so when I
Iconic.
was like, oh, you've actually seen it, be like,
Yeah.
I'm dying to get your thoughts on it and just
what are the most concerning clause that you saw?
Yeah.
So, look, I won't tell you who engaged me. I won't tell you what season. I don't know if it's evolved. And I get what you're saying. It's like saying, hey, someone saw Bigfoot. Like, it's real.
Yeah.
I've told you Bigfoot's real. I saw them. But, you got to, like,
They believe us.
Yeah, it's true. What I'll say is this. I've read a lot of, look, I'm not an entertainment lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of contracts. The thing that's jumped out at me is the first page is in plain English, and it's basically like a warning you get on a can of bug spray. Like, you will be portrayed however we want. We own you. Be very cautious of what you sign. And that to me was something quite unusual.
Yeah.
And I mean, good on them for at least like putting the label up front and letting you know. But things like, we're going to record you. You may not be aware that we're recording you as a part of that particular contract. It's staggering. Like, it's really genuinely staggering. And like, when you look at particularly, I think a lot of people think, oh, you go on reality TV, it's going to be like a couple of hours of filming a day. It's going to be like pretty chill. They get really good money. Nah, it's like the work of a galley slave. Like, you are working 12, 13, 14-hour days, being paid like basically minimum wage.
Yeah.
Very few of the safeguards you'd have in a standard employment contract are there. And basically, they are telling you, like, based on how we feel, we very well may portray you in a way that is completely disingenuous to who you actually are. And we may very well destroy your life. So to me, it is, I can understand why people sign the thing, because, like, you got a shot. You got to, sometimes you got to risk it for the
We're
biscuit.
here on a podcast now, so.
It worked out for you two.
Yeah.
It worked out for you two. And you guys, that's a testament to your tenacity and your intelligence. You parlayed it correctly. But I also think a lot of people think, like, you just go on the show and then that's it. Like, as soon as the show's done, you just answer phone calls. Oh, yeah, sure. I'll do that endorsement deal for $2 million.
Totally.
And it's just not like
It's
that
not
at all.
realistic
Not
at all.
No.
It's a springboard. It's a springboard, and that could
It's
be
still a
into
hustle.
great thing. Oh.
But I think they can kind of wave that around people as like and I remember from our like briefing chats, like they would be like, if you want to be like XYZ couples from the show or these people, you need to listen to what we tell you. And that's the kind of general sentiment you have going into it. And I was always and I think we've had conversations about this, very realistic. I'm like, okay, I might look like an idiot. I need to just behave the way I would in real life, and then if people don't like me for who I am, I would have to deal with that. The only thing is, I was like, if they don't like me for something that's not who I am, is where I'm going to have a problem. But it's the roll of the dice, right? And I say high risk, high reward, but extremely high risk, and only such a small percentage of people can even sustain their normal job even after the fact, right? Because I think there's not. I guess, again, it's all in the contract, but I don't think there's a seriousness of like, hey, you probably shouldn't be a lawyer, a teacher, a certain careers. If you go on MAFS, I would be like, there should be a list of careers to have that you should never, ever, ever go on a show. Because it's like, you're probably not going to work in that field again. Even if you look good, it's just not really appropriate. And I don't think there's that like really intricate, unless you're speaking to someone like yourself or like family and friends that are educated in the space, you just wouldn't know. Right?
I spent hours trying to persuade my client not to go on this show. He was a smart guy. I knew him. He was a nice person. I spent a lot of energy telling him, don't do this. He did it anyway, right? So you can, I advise you decide. That's the role. That's my role, right? I advise you decide. Fundamentally, it speaks to, I think, exactly what you're saying, which is what's not in the contract. And what's not in the contract are those conversations. Listen, you want to be like this person, don't you? Like, this person's gone on to have such a stellar career. They were on this show and they did what I said. So if you follow the formula, you're going to be fine.
She's like 1 in 100.
One in 10,000. It's like winning the lotto, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the contestants have like any grounds to fight the contract after the fact?
No. I think that
pretty tight.
It's pretty watertight. It's designed to be read and understood.
Yep.
And there's a time to have those negotiations. But I think that the power disparity is so substantial, right? Because if you say, no, I'm not going to sign this, I want to change this, they go, no problem, buy, and
get
put in someone else, right?
Yeah.
So it's a seller's market. They can do as they wish.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a very much take it or leave it type situation. The only exception to that would be, let's say you're a high profile person coming into MAFS.
Especially if they've approached you. I think it's different if you've applied versus you being scouted, because I know there were whispers of this conversation of certain like things being relaxed. I don't know where things eventuated, but people that were approached or been asked multiple times, they were able to like tighten a couple things in their favor.
I think you should always, whenever you're given a contract, you should always get legal advice on it. You should always push back. Even if that means you lose the opportunity, so be it, right? I always say if someone's not willing to negotiate with you before they're in a relationship with you, they're not going to negotiate when they're in the relationship, right? So
Period.
it's really simple, right? So the dynamic bit that defines the relationship before entering it is going to define it during.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So
what
true.
advice would you give people looking to sign a contract like this, whether it's MAFS, whether it's another reality TV show? What would be your like number one advice?
Go speak to a lawyer. Go speak to a lawyer. Tell me about yours. It also depends on the individual, right? Like,
For sure.
let's say you are you're a well-respected and regarded teacher, and there's a possibility that you're never going to be able to work in that field again. That's a very different situation
Yeah.
than you're like an 18-year-old and like this is what you have your heart set on. You really haven't really gone out there and tried other things. Very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different. And so you have to basically understand your client and understand the contract and make sure that it makes sense. But get advice.
Yeah.
Definitely get advice.
I didn't do this, but I think it's beneficial for future casts to reach out to past participants, especially the ones that they might want to emulate a career that they've had. I find it interesting when I see people go to like the villains or like the people that didn't have a good experience, as if it would kind of help them pave a path that would be different to the people that they're asking of. So I find that interesting. And I always think like when you have these resources, like go get legal advice, which we found like a lot of people just didn't do. Like I feel like in my season, I was like one of the only ones that even had the lawyer like look over it. And it's just like, that's crazy to me. Like I don't think I've had a contract that I haven't even had like my dad like skim it, you know, like it's like contracts scare me. And I think especially something like this, there's nothing scarier than something like this type contract.
It's look, I'm telling you, I look at contracts all day and I look at big contracts. We're talking sales of multi-million-dollar properties and whatnot. This is a big, scary contract. Like it's intimidating.
I was naughty. I didn't get
You
anyone
did,
to look
babe.
over. I looked over it myself. But yeah, I guess like COVID time, that's when my show was on.
Yeah.
And I was so desperate to find my husband. Like I was just blinded by anything else.
Yeah.
So even if a lawyer had said to me, you know, XYZ,
You probably still would have just been like,
I'm like, I'm going to meet my soulmate.
Credit to you. You know yourself, right? And there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for, look, I'm that gung-ho on this that nothing you say is going to dissuade me. And look, sometimes I've been wrong. I've told people that like there's been deals where I've been like, you shouldn't do this, and then they did it. Oh wow, it ended up really, really good. So all I can do is advise based on
course.
today.
Yeah.
But I think you also need to understand yourself. But at the very least, going to someone and knowing, hey, they're going to do these 18 things that I didn't expect. I'm better keep my like. If I was on the show, I would just be taking a sobriety break. I would not be drinking.
oh, I didn't. I had non-alcoholic wine the whole time. I was like,
Really?
you were not catching me looking like a hot mess for the rest of my life. No, there's no way. So I had like not, and I was just like, no, I'm just not interested in that.
So smart.
Not
it's such a
interested.
simple
Yeah.
one because
Yeah.
you don't, and you're filming the same scenes over and over again. They keep topping up the thing. It just there's so many little simple tricks you could use. I think that would
Yeah.
make your experience slightly better.
We were in the most severe lockdown.
Yeah.
So there were no restaurants, pub, cafes to go to. We had like,
you're locked
we
in
call
your
them our dog
apartments.
walkers. Like you were only allowed out once a day for 1 hour with a producer. You couldn't even go on a walk with your partner. So
bad.
alcohol was the only thing we had. So we just drank like little fishies. And
Yeah.
that's why I think our season was so explosive.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining. Well, we've seen this year a lot of the participants go a bit rogue on socials,
Yes.
create accounts, which, just to preface, there's your contract obligation with the production company. Then there's also your Channel 9 social media engagement contract, which essentially signs away your usage of your socials to them for like 6 months. They'll post on your behalf, that whole thing, and then you get the account back. And we've noticed a lot of people this year not do that because I thought we didn't really have a choice. You're kind of cornered and you just thought, oh, I have to do this. Otherwise, I don't know.
We'll get sued.
And we've seen like quite a bit of the cast go so rogue, ruin storylines, just completely go just ruin the whole production essentially. Do you think there's any grounds for Channel 9 and ESA to sue them?
I think there is. I think there definitely is. I thought about this at some length. Why haven't they? They probably haven't because it's good for ratings. And right now, the going rogue has actually probably helped people know about it. So maybe that's why they haven't. But I think they probably do have grounds to sue if they wanted to.
Yeah. I always wonder what would be their like trigger point to, because I feel like it progressively gets worse and worse. Yeah.
But this year I feel like by far is the worst in terms of going rogue and leaking stuff.
I'm not the demographic and it's hitting my channels.
Right.
And so if it's hitting me, it's hitting everyone.
Yeah, it seems like nothing gets done about it. I know there was people in my season that broke the rules.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, well, there's
Nothing
no
like
consequences
this.
to it. So
Yeah.
why did I not do that? But also part of me kind of respects their courage to be so vocal about their experience, because it is hard. I think typically if you were following the contract, following what has been set out, you're not allowed to comment on anything really. Like when these storylines are happening or when you look bad, you have to just cop it. So I think part of me does respect them being like, no, actually this is how it happened. Some people I probably agree with more than others, but I think it's almost like people are like biting back, which
I know, but I'm like, just wait a few more weeks.
yeah, people are still going to listen. Like, just wait out for the season to air. People will still listen to what you have to say. Trust me.
Yeah.
I think that it's a highly emotive thing. And I can imagine if someone was portraying me in a way that was disingenuous, I would want to get on the front foot and be like, how dare you?
Yeah.
The other side of it might be, maybe they think that the level of exposure, because we are all talking about it. Like they have done a fantastic job of getting us to talk about it, which is why I think the downside of suing is, do you really want to stop people who are talking about this? Or maybe they've already threatened, maybe it hasn't gotten anywhere. Maybe it's because they've got other bigger fish to fry. The police have been involved in this particular season.
Yeah, I saw
allegedly.
Safe Work as well has been involved. Because I wonder what the grounds are there, because we're not employees, we're contributors. That's the way it's positioned. So I feel like we don't actually have rights. Like you can't, I would probably say, that if it was a traditional workplace, the way we were treated at times probably wouldn't fly in a normal environment.
I can save you. Absolutely, it wouldn't fly. You would absolutely be filing cases in relevant jurisdictions. It's insane, right? You can't treat people that way. You can't work them 14 hours a day for minimum wage and then portray them in negative lights and tell them to do this and to tell them to do that. Like it's pretty insane, right? And the fact that they get away with it season after season is, I think, leading to it becoming slightly more extreme. If you watch it, to me, the show is getting more extreme every season.
100%.
Right? Like things that fly now would never have flown 5 seasons ago.
For sure.
So true.
And I think it's dangerous, right? I really do. I mean, it concerns me that there hasn't been more, oversight over it. If you've got people acting in ways that are violent, I genuinely thought after that particular incident, there would have been like okay, you're leaving the show. Australia has a domestic violence problem. This is completely unacceptable. You should be, taught some consequences for your actions, regardless of what your partner thinks about the particular situation. It's not okay to act this way. Bye. That's what I thought would, pop out. But
in regards to Paul punching the wall.
Yes.
Yeah, we did want to ask your opinion on this, because it's interesting to see, because yes, like you mentioned, like we're in a really dark time for DV in this country alone, and I think being able to see it could have been an opportunity to really talk about it and to share resources, do a decent trigger warning, to really educate on how the behavior is not okay, and what if the wall isn't there next time, or and what actual services and stuff have they given him after. Like they said, okay, we're going to give you some resources. What are those? Maybe share that with the audience, because say someone is in a real life situation, like hey, they've never done it before, and this is the first time they've acted out, which my personal views on that is separate. What do they do? Where do they go? Where are they getting help? What's the strategy there? And I feel like that wasn't shown, and that could have been like, okay, if we're going to keep him on, let's show, okay, if this happens in your relationship, I don't know. I feel like you don't stay personally. I think
you don't.
Yeah,
no, you don't,
that's
because it escalates and you die. It's not
literally.
I mean, it's not.
It's serious.
It's very serious. Okay, was she speaking to him in a disrespectful manner? Maybe. Does that give you the right to take hands on someone? No. It's pretty clear cut. These are binary things, right? And I think what a lot is that is underestimated is young people are watching this and they're starting to see, oh, well, it's okay if he punches the wall and then says sorry to me.
Yep.
That's okay then.
Yeah.
That's all right. He's sorry, right? And what I've seen is the whole spectrum of domestic violence on this episode, on this season, sorry. You've got physical, proper domestic violence. You've got coercive control on the other side.
Yeah.
On camera coercive control. Don't you dare tell them about how
Yeah.
You've got experts. Like, I mean, this.
Why is it not being called out?
Seriously, why is there not like the registered board coming and saying, "Sir, you're witnessing on camera someone coercively controlling a young woman. She's terrified. Why are you making her say things she likes about him? This is not healthy or normal."
That didn't make sense to me. And I was like, what is the thought process behind her then saying what she likes to then catch her out being like, she doesn't like him or she wants to say, like, I didn't understand where that was going. And I was just like, and then it just ended.
I was naive. I thought this was a great opportunity to show that there isn't anything you like about him. You should leave.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is a great exercise for people. Instead, it completely created the opposite sort of experience. And like, if these experts don't have DV training, you need experts that do. Because I'm telling you, for me, I have younger siblings. I don't want them to watch that and think this is an acceptable way to treat your partner.
Yeah.
You cannot punch walls because you're upset.
Yes.
That's what a 4-year-old does, not a grown adult on television. And if that's how he behaves when television cameras are on, respectfully, I have genuine concerns about what happens when there's no oversight. And secondly, you don't speak to your partner that way. You don't gaslight them in the way that that's happening. It's proper coercive control. There's legislation designed to prevent this.
And this is like new stuff that's been implemented. And it's interesting because going back to Paul, we obviously saw it was his turn to share his experience and like write a letter about how he feels about Karina. And for him to say, she's a jealous person, she's judgmental,
triggered.
gives me the ick. And then all this stuff. I was like, jealous person, but did you not punch a wall because you were jealous that she
Slept with a rapper?
Sleeping with a rapper, and then you're going to have the ick about her being upset you staying with a woman for 3 nights. It was so like typical. Anyone that's been in situations of similar dynamics can recognize this behavior. And I think it's really hard. And from my experience, until I was in it, you never realize. And until you're exposed to it, you will never know what it's like. So we're having opportunity now to be exposed to it. We need to then explain, hey, red flag, this is really bad, because you sometimes don't know until you're in it, right?
Exactly.
And I just think there's not many other ways to have these conversations like MAFS is doing, and they just haven't really, they missed the mark on how it's presented. I think it's...
And just like allowing him to stay and continue for the whole experiment, it's just setting the tone that that behaviour is okay.
Yes.
So people are going to watch that and be like, oh, it's all right to punch a wall.
Well, exactly. And in addition to that, we've seen Adrian, the DV charges, which I believe have been dropped. I'm not sure what exactly those were and what the terms are around that. I personally don't know if we should be platforming people that have even just an allegation. When you're doing the application process, you have a police check, you do psychological evals. This is definitely something they would have been aware of if they did a simple police check, right? Whether that was done or whether it was ignored, I'm not sure. But what's your thoughts on, I guess, a mainstream media being able to platform?
It's very tough, right?
It's really
tough because, false allegations happen. They're rare, but they happen. They're about 2 to 5%, basically. So do you want to destroy someone's opportunities because a false allegation or an incorrect allegation is made? Probably not. But I guess, is it possible to have someone who has no allegations and no backstory whatsoever? Yes, it is. And I think that's the kind of people that you want to promote.
Yeah.
Right? So to me, I understood the charges were dropped. I understood the matter's gone away. He's entitled to his presumption of innocence.
sure,
He should be allowed to go on with his life. But I think that what I have seen portrayed with my own eyes, barring, we all know editing can make custard out of, anything.
Yeah.
But what I've seen is some pretty concerning dynamics, and what I'm shocked at is the complete lack of dialogue around those dynamics, and the complete lack of psychosocial education around this particular stuff. Because if you allow this, I'm telling you, it's only it's a matter of time until someone gets hurt, right? And it's not a game, it's not entertainment. You can't be having these things play out in this horrific way and not say anything, not do anything.
Yeah, it's hard because I think like a lot of the stuff we've discussed are very important conversations to be had, and there's stuff that is very real in like the world we live in, not just reality TV. But I think there's like a disjoint with how that's being communicated in such a mainstream, like, this is prime time TV slot, right? So like you've got families watching this. How are they explaining stuff to kids, or like how is that? I don't know. There's not. It would have been. I would have loved to see a great opportunity to like educate on the space, or like bring people in to like workshop. I don't know what I expect from them. I don't really expect much.
I expect something.
But something.
Right? Like, I don't expect this complete void. I mean, look, there's an argument, the David Attenborough approach. You see a tiger chasing a rabbit and you don't interfere. That I don't think flies when it's a primetime slot about something as important as, the relationship between two people. Yeah. And so I think you need to have a discussion to tell people this is not normal or healthy or appropriate, right? And if I understand it correctly, Paul got he does a counselling session once on Saturday, every Saturday.
Sure.
Okay. Like, okay, well, sure. What has he learnt in those sessions?
Yeah.
What is being
Let's
talked
share
about?
that.
Let's share that, right? Let's share that, because look, I can understand people losing their cool. You don't want to destroy someone because they've had a moment of madness. But also, right, you don't punch a wall. Like, I mean, I love how we keep just like acting like this is a normal behavior. It's not, right?
Yeah.
And if mainstream Australia starts to think that that's okay, you're going to have a spike in domestic violence. It's just what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So true. Because
No,
it escalates every season. Like season 6, we saw Martha throw wine at Cyrell. Then my season, on season 9, we saw Domenica smash a wine glass in front of the whole group. And then that was deemed okay. And everyone was like, yay, slay queen.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And now this guy is punching a hole in the wall. And that's,
nothing's happened.
Nothing's happened.
Well, what is 5 seasons from now? Yeah, it's fine. It didn't break the leg. It just injured it. Oh, yeah.
Just a hairline fracture.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Oh, yeah,
Where does
it's
it go from
fine.
here?
It's fine. They were only in a coma for 5 months.
Yeah.
It's
It gets
what
pushed.
you walk past is
Yeah.
what you accept, right?
Yes.
And I think that the fact that there hasn't been bigger pushback is concerning.
Yeah, I agree. I think I do feel, though, this year, I just feel something brewing. I feel like there's going to be more change, or I don't know. I just feel like it's starting the conversation a bit more, and it might trigger things to happen.
Hope
I don't
so.
know. I'm hopeful of it,
Same.
but it's it's interesting to see what has transpired off the back of like topics from this season.
Yep.
Yeah, very fascinating. And I'm just curious, your client, did he ever come back and say you were right?
No.
Oh, really?
No, he did not. And I did bring it up because
Yeah,
I
fair
felt
enough.
that
Okay.
I also feel like
Don't knock him while he's doing
yeah,
it.
he's gone through enough, right?
Yeah, no, it's fair.
So I
But you're still friends?
not really. No,
Okay.
I think that he. I was shocked at how much it fundamentally changed his personality.
Yeah.
Being publicly shamed in such a wide way.
Yep.
And I think the poor guy probably got PTSD or something out of it.
For
Like, it
sure.
seemed like, and I can understand. I mean, I can understand that happening to people. I
Yeah.
think that we all look at these things as this like harmless bit of entertainment, but at the end of the day, there is someone whose life has
Yeah.
changed in
Yeah.
a way. You guys would get it far better than I would. But just, it's not meant to be a blood sport. It's meant to be,
Yeah.
it's meant to be an opportunity to find the love of your life
Yeah.
and, make some friends and,
Yep.
hey, I thought I liked a beach type and I like a mountain type. Who would have
Yeah.
thought, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's meant to be something goofy, not like,
Yeah.
hey, I didn't, I have to live with a domestic violence abuser. Like, it's
Yep.
not meant to be like that.
No, totally. And do you think, like, given like the duty of care when it comes to production and with this, do you think there's, I think because we've spoken about people taking it too far of maybe ending their life based on their experience, whether it's on the show or the aftermath of it. Do you think that the production or the network could be liable for that? Or
Well, the rules
what?
and regulations are quite different here. I know in the UK, they've got, I think we were discussing this off air, they've got some tighter regulations around that sort of thing. But I mean, what people have to understand about the law is it's always inherently reactive. So I always say this, when I was in law school, and that wasn't that long ago, I 14, 15 years ago, same-sex marriage was not legal.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency was not a thing. Now, in my current practice, the argument is which one of the husbands keeps the cryptocurrency wallet, right? I couldn't have learnt how to deal with that when I was in law school. It wasn't a
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be a step behind as we catch up with the law. So does someone need to pass for that to be the case? Hopefully not. I'm hopeful that this particular season, people have gone, yeah, look, we really pushed things a bit too far. We
Yeah.
better calm down and we
Yeah.
better, we better retool. or at the very least, we better get a couple of actual DV experts on the panel.
Yeah.
And if they do have those experts, maybe they're not listening to them, or maybe they're not. I don't know.
And I think it's hard because I also think the experts play their own role as not actors, not the right word. They are being a character that is supplementing the whole thing, right? So I don't really hold things against them because I'm sure they have their own how they feel ethically about stuff, and I'm sure that the specialization that they do privately with their private clients is completely different than what we're receiving.
They're basically like glorified hosts.
There's a flip to that. You are a professional. You've taken oaths. You've made standards. You hold certain licenses and representations, right? So for me, I can't mislead the court. It's something I can't do.
Yeah.
Even if it's in a like showy context, I can't do that. I've made an ethical determination that I'm going to discharge my duties in a certain way. If you're a glorified host, right, we wouldn't hold Nick Lachey to the same standard, right? Okay? Okay, so you just it's just a different sort of thing. But if you have those expertises, right? People will expect you to do something about it. And if you're not, right? Maybe behind the scenes they're raising whatever alarms they need to raise. But I mean, if you're a host and you get the benefits of being a host, unfortunately you've got to have the responsibilities of being a host.
Criticism, for sure. That's true. For sure.
The scary thing is not even them talking. I don't think the audience know. They wear an earpiece.
Yeah, and you can
it's
so
hear
jarring because you'd sit there and like probably the same distance we are now, and you can hear it. You can literally hear what's being said in the earpiece.
And then
you're
nodding,
like,
they're like,
and it's just like dead, just looking at each other,
Yes,
deadpan,
creepy.
and it's just like. it's so just not natural.
I don't know how you guys did what
it's
you
not
did.
natural.
It is hard.
Yeah,
it is hard. Give me a murder trial any day of the week versus this. It's hard.
So if people were to go, tell us about your firm and what, I guess, services you offer, and if people were to go to you for... Yeah, what are some of the things people could go to
so
for
glad
advice?
you asked. No, we're a full service law firm. My firm's called Executive Law Group. We have an office here in Sydney. You can find us all over the internet or reach out to me via TikTok or any of my other channels. We do everything from we're disputes specialists, so we do employment disputes, family law, crime, commercial disputes, what have you. We have an influencer practice where we help a lot of influencers who are dealing with things like not getting paid, making sure they understand their obligations and their rights, making sure that any sort of agreement is made that's fair to them. We do a fair bit of that sort of stuff, and it's a really exciting space. I love it. I love working with influencers. It keeps me young.
I love that.
Like to quote, what is it, Mean Girls? You girls keep me young.
I love that.
Well, it's literally like you said before, like 13 years ago, influencer wasn't even a word that existed. So I think it's like, I love that you're evolving with the times here and like taking the career seriously, because there is these like, what's the regulations? We never get paid on time. Like all these things which I think lack that structure. And I feel like it's great to have a resource where you can be like, yeah, actually these are your rights.
Exactly.
It's like any typical job you would do.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to wait another 60 days just because people don't feel like paying you.
Yeah.
So I love that you're doing that as well.
Oh, it's staggering how many influencers get taken for a ride. Like, I from the outside, when you look at the world of an influencer, you think, what a cushy job, right? Oh my God, they just go and eat like a burger and they get paid a fortune. If you are hustling hard as an influencer, it is hard. Like there are people who take a lot of liberties. And so it's actually been really nice to support people who are just like trying to, do their thing and try to learn a little bit. It's been a really positive experience.
Yeah, no, I love that. And tell us about your book. You've got a book coming out.
Thank you for remembering. I'd forgotten. My book's called Talk Your Way Out of Trouble. It's coming out April 29th. It's by Pan Macmillan Publishers. You can find it in any good bookstore or order it online or pre-order it. You too get copies.
Great. It's
There is an audiobook.
Are you narrating?
I narrated it.
Yes. Okay. Love that.
And it went, and let me tell you, narrating an audiobook is so much harder than people tell you. You've
I
got to
can
get
imagine.
every word right. And if you get it wrong, Jahan, I'm sorry, you sounded a bit off there. Can we just get the last sentence again?
Yep.
So it's a mission, but yes, I've narrated it.
Amazing.
And it's coming out April 29th, so in any good bookstore. Great gift for loved ones and family. And if you like my content, it's kind of the stories and the way that I became a lawyer, what I've learned being a lawyer, and how you can implement that in your own life.
Love that.
So
I'll be
cool.
reading that.
Same.
Absolutely.
Finally, ending off with one last question. Let's just say if these crazy contracts weren't a thing, what reality TV show would you go on?
Oof. Oof. What a tough one.
I'm seeing like Survivor or like a Big Brother.
No, look.
The Apprentice?
You have to understand. The Apprentice would be a good one. I would check out The Apprentice.
Bring it back,
Yeah,
actually.
bring back The
Yeah.
Apprentice. The Apprentice is
Seriously.
legit. Yeah. My wife has always said she wanted to go on Survivor. That's been her big dream. So use your energy internet and make that happen for her.
Okay.
But I think Apprentice would be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You'd go out there. You
Hustle.
you hustle.
Yeah.
Get fired. You're fired. I'm like, I thought I was self-employed.
I know, I've been fired before. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. I'd be like, cry probably.
Literally. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I've learnt so much. I
No,
feel like I've been in
seriously.
class, but in a good class.
Yeah, like a nice discussion.
HDs for both of you. A++. Thank you guys.
Thank you
Thank you for
so
having me.
much.
It's been a delight.
Thank you.